Welcome to the Tiffany Mika podcast. What we do here is build the belief in you to accomplish your dreams in your sport. I'll be your mentor and give you the skills, strategies, and guidance to make it happen. Dream big, believe in you, and go after your dreams. Now let's get into today's episode. Hey there, Tiff here from the Tiffany Mika podcast. Welcome to the Tiffany Mika podcast. I know I haven't recorded much lately over the last number of months. It's been crazy busy in my golf teaching world. And I haven't had an opportunity to get these episodes out to you as I originally planned. I am still your mentor. I still want to help you accomplish your big dreams in your sport. So bear with me and stay with me, and I can help show you and build confidence in you in what you want to accomplish in your sport. So I am still here for you. And here to help you in any way that I can. So what I want to be talking to you about today, and because it's still early in the year, even though that if you listen to these episodes later in the year too, this is all designed to help you perform better and understand your sport better so that you can play better when you're competing in your sport. So like I said, if it doesn't matter if you listen to it beginning of the year or mid-year or towards the end of the year, these areas will really help you. Now, I've got another podcast that I call Golf Talk with Tiff, and I talk a lot obviously about golf in that because that's my one of my areas of expertise other than tennis. Tennis is another area of my expertise. If you don't know my background, I was a tennis player and pursued a professional tennis career in my late teens, early 20s. And so I do know quite a lot about the tennis aspects of it. Played sport my whole entire life and continue to do that even to this very day. But I took up golf later in my 30s, and I've been teaching golf probably for the last 12, 13, 14 years, somewhere around there. So I really enjoy that too. But I also create these podcast episodes because I want to help you accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish in your sport. So even though my knowledge around other sports is not going to be as good as the golf and tennis, so I will refer back to those a bit more often than other sports. I will try and adapt it as much as I can to some other sports that I do know reasonably well, like swimming and soccer. And then you can apply these also to your own sport. So when I'm setting examples and showing examples of other sports that I'm talking about with regards to ways in which you can help yourself improve your performance, I want you to just think of, okay, how can I apply that to my sport? I'll give you some examples as best as I can so that you can work on adapting that. But just bear with me with when I talk about the sports that I know, and the reasons obviously that I do that is so that I can help you and relay the message to you, thinking about, okay, how can I apply this to my own game and my own sport? Okay, so what we're going to be looking at today is ways in which you can improve in your sport. So whether it be golf, whether it be tennis, whether it be swimming, soccer, fighting, karate, boxing, running, whatever your sport is, how you can break it down and look at specific areas in your sport, and then those areas in, okay, what is it and how is it that I can really improve on those. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you some examples in what I want you to be looking at, and really stripping down the game and looking at it in really simple form. So for example, I use a few different sports as examples so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So if we look at golf, I'll start with the golf area first. So if we look at golf, and if you play, most people have an idea about golf. You tee off, from the tee area, and you go down and you finish with a putt, right? And you play down the fairway. So if we break the golf game down into 4 separate areas, like categories or sections, we've got our tee shot game, we've got our fairway game, we've got our approach game, which is approaching into the green, you would play there, and then we've also got our putting game. So we've broken it up into 4 separate areas. So what we then want to do with that, if you're a golfer, then you want to be looking at your golf game in those areas. So if you've got areas in which you've got your tee shot game that may be holding you back or you're quite strong at, we want to look at that. If you've got areas in your fairway game, like whether you're using your 3-wood, 5-wood, hybrids, irons, whatever it is that you use in your fairway game, you want to be looking at that area. Your approach game is like you're pitching into the green. Really, from 100 meters in is really where your pitching game really starts, or your approach game really starts, and you want to be looking at your whether it's be full swing from 100 meters, pitching, chipping, bunkers, all of that kind of areas, your approach game into the green. And then you got your putting game, which is, obviously your putting and how you're going to finish off. So you want to be looking at those areas. So then if we look at swimming, for example, so swimming, you've got your start area, then you've got your, I think it's called breakout, which is you've got your start where you're diving off the blocks, you've got your breakout area or breakthrough area where you come up out of the water after you've dived in and you've come up out of the water. And then you've got your down the pool, what you do there. You've got your turn. If you're obviously doing a 100-meter race especially or more, you've got your turn, what you do for your turn. Then you've got your down the pool, and then you've got your finish and how you finish. So again, you're breaking it up into sections. We could think of soccer. That's another example. So you've got your kickoff. That's especially if you're playing in the centres and so on, but what happens in that, and looking at what your role is actually on the field, because there's lots of different positions that get played in soccer. So we want to be looking at those things that you're doing on the field and what your role is. So what are those most important areas? So, for majority of the players on there would obviously be passing, placement, dribbling, ball control. If you're a goalie, it's going to be different. It's, how you're catching, how you're getting ready, how you tackle, an oncoming player coming towards you. Same in, obviously, if you're not, a goalie, you want to also be looking at that tackling aspect as well of your game. But what is it that you've got to do? The goalie itself, how you're going to kick the ball away from the goal when you've caught the ball, your goal kicks, what you've got to do there and so on. So there's lots of different things. So I want you to be looking at what your role is on the field if you're a soccer player. Then if you're a tennis player, again, we want to be looking at specific areas. So we've got our service game area, we've got our return game, we've got our rally game, we've got our approach game, and we've got our net game as well. So we're breaking it down into specific areas in what we need to be looking at. So what I want you to be thinking of in your sport is we want to start giving them a rating out of 5. And what I mean by that is, like, 1 is like you're really confident with that specific area, or 1 if you're not confident with that specific area. I don't know what I'm talking about there. So 1 if you're not confident, like you go to putty, and 5 if you're super confident with that area as well. Okay, so if you're super confident, then great, that's a strength, so you don't need to focus so much on that. But those other areas where you're not so confident, you may rate them as a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Then these are some things that you can really be working on in improving so that you're actually performing better. So for example, like if you're a golfer and your tee shot game, if we look at that, that's your start. What do you do? Are you hitting straight ball? Are you going down the center of the fairway? Are you feeling confident with the distance you're playing? All of those things. So you want to be looking at your tee shot area. What would you rate it as? Would you give it a 1, as in you're not very confident, you go to putty, or would you give it a 5? Okay. And then you want to do the same with your fairway game. So whatever woods or irons or hybrids that you use down the fairway, what would you rate that as from 1 going to putty. 5, very confident. Then your approach game, so that's your shots from 100 meters in. What would you rate it as? 1 or 5 or somewhere in between. So that's your swings from 100 meters in, your pitching, your bunkers, and also your chipping. What would you rate those shots as? Between 1 and 5. And then also your putting game. And when you look at your putting game, I want you to break down your putting game into areas such as like your short putts, which is about 1 meter. Then you've got your mid putts from 2 to 7 meters. And then you've got your long putts, which is 10 meters plus. What would you rate them as from 1 to 5? And also reading the greens. How do you go with that? What would you rate yourself in that area? So that's something that you want to be doing if you're a golfer. Let's use yourself, let's say you're a swimmer. So remember, if I'm not mentioning your sport, just think about what your sport and how you could break them down into sections and make them work. So here's some examples with your swimming. So with your swimming, you start. So what is it that you've got to do if you start? Have you got to have a very strong dive off? How are you going to actually dive? Do you need leg strength? Do you need to blast out of the blocks? Do you need to have a better reaction time off the blocks when you're swimming? So I want you to be looking at that area. What would you rate it as between 1 and 5? So remember, 1 is not confident, go to putty. 5 is super confident or really confident. And then you've got your, 2, 3, and 4 in between. Then you've got your breakout area. So what you're doing between the start and the breakout. So you're going through the water. So you're underneath, swimming under the water. Are you doing a dolphin kick? Are you streamlined? What do you do when you come out and you break above the water? What would you rate all that area as? That's really important. So rate that between 1 and 5. Then what you're doing down the pool. Are you rhythmic? Have you got good strength? Are you strong? Are you grabbing the water? All of those things that you need to be doing down the pool. Breathing, everything. Are you rhythmic? What is it that you're doing down there? Would you be rating that? What would the rating be between 1 and 5? Then you're going into your turn. So how are you going to go approach your turn? Are you going strong into the turn or weak into the turn? You hit the wall and then turn back out. Are you strong off the wall when you're coming back out of the turn? So what would you rate that as between 1 and 5? Again, going back down the pool, what kind of rhythm do you create? And then we look at the finish. So that's the next section. What would you do? The last 10 meters? What have you got to do? Do you have to grab more water? Do you have to swim faster? Do you have to grab, and I say more water in the sense of going much quicker? What is it that you need to do so that you've got a strong finish? And what would you rate it as between 1 and 5? So you can see how we've broken it up into sections. Again, let's look at soccer. So your role on the field. So what would you rate your passing as, your placement of the ball, the dribbling, the tackling, the ball control? If you're a goalie, like you're catching, you kicking versus a goal kick, or when you've caught the ball and you're kicking it away to a player, your throws, even those players that, even your throw-ins and so on. How would you rate those between 1 and 5? So you want to make sure that you're looking at those aspects of your game and then giving it a rating. And then we want to look at the tennis, another sport, right? So we've got our service game. What's your service game like? Are you in control of the point? Are you serving aces? Are you serving good strong serves down the center of the tee? Are you getting the ball to slice out wide, or are you getting it to kick? Look at those areas. What would you rate it as? With your return game, how strong are you off both sides, your forehand, backhand returns, into the body serves? How strong are you in returning those? Are you getting deep shots at least past the service line? Are you having angled returns? Are you having low returns? Look at that area. What would you rate it as 1 to 5? So you really want to break it down and really look at the game really well. Then your rally game, how would you rate that? I mean, majority of the time in tennis especially is if you're really good at the first 4 points, which is your serve and then your first shot on your return, you've set yourself up quite well. If you can get those areas right, especially those first 4 shots in the actual game of tennis. So you serve, your opponent returns, you hit your next shot, they return. You want to make sure that your serve and your return are so strong, okay? Very, very important parts in the game. Your rally game, you know, are you moving well? Do you have solid forehand, backhands? What type of plays and routines have you got? How would you rate them between 1 and 5? Your approach game, again, movement and forehand, backhand approaches. How would you into the court, both cross court and down the line? How would you rate them? The placement, setting up for volleys. How would you rate them between 1 and 5? Then you look at your net game. So what's involved in your net game? Well, it's volleys, forehand, backhand volleys, high forehand, high backhand volleys, and smashes. So is your placement really good for those? Is your movement good? How do you, are you a strong smasher? You know, is the placement good with that as well? Give it a rating from 1 to 5. Okay. Now, once you've looked at your sport and you've broken it down into those sections, how would you then fix it if those areas are then what you've identified have problem areas or weaker parts of your game? Well, how you then want to look at it is okay, well, I've identified that, for example, off swimming, my start is really weak. My reaction time is poor to when the gun goes off. And I feel like my dive into the pool is not streamlined enough. I need to make sure that I get out and I really work on just diving in and getting stronger in the legs and getting more streamlined. Could be an area in which you're going under the water to breaking out on top of the water, that underwater area. Do you need to be more streamlined? Does your dolphin kick need to be stronger? You're looking at those specific areas, and when you identify them, then you can break them down and go, okay, well, that's an area that's being neglected. I need to make sure that I'm getting stronger at that. How am I going to do that? Do I need to get extra coaching on it? Do I need to get my coach to look at it? Do I need some one-on-one? Do I need to spend more time in the pool doing that rather than just swimming laps so that I can perform better when I swim? Also, the breakout, what you've got to do there. Down the pool, do you need good rhythm and be breathing appropriately? What kind of stroke rhythm do you need to create? How many strokes do you need to have for that length of the pool, and so on? So you need to be looking at those areas. Your turns, are you going into the turn strong and coming out strong? What's your turn actually like? Do you work on your turns? If you don't, you need to make them stronger. Again, it's all about reducing the amount of time so that you're getting quicker in the pool. Even you return back down the pool, what you've got to do there, your rhythm, your breathing, and also how you finish, especially the last 10 meters, 10 to 15 meters, what you've got to do there. Do you increase the speed? Well, yeah, you do, but how are you going to do that? Is that an area that you need to get into the pool and really work on? And how strong and how hard are you going to touch the wall, or what is it that you need to do to swim in and touch the wall? So again, you're reducing time, okay? So that's areas in which you can look at in improving. So let's look at the soccer aspect. Okay, so we've identified there's areas in your game: passing, trapping, tackling, placement, dribbling, ball control, whatever those areas need to be. And if they're like a 4 or less, then those are the areas in which you need to be working on. So the question then is, you have to ask yourself is, do I need to be spending more time on those areas? Do I need to be spending more time on how do I pass the ball, and what part of the ball do I need to be actually kicking in order to get the pass that I need to get from left foot and right foot? What kind of other maneuvers do I need to be doing? What kind of other ball control drills do I need to be doing? What type of dribbling do I need to be doing? Do I need to do specific like basic dribbling drills? Do I need to advance it? What is it that I need to be doing? What part of the ball do I need to be using with my feet? when I'm dribbling, all of those types of things that you want to be looking at, so that you're looking at ways in which you can really improve what you need to be doing in your sport. The same with golf. We've got our tee shot game, we've got our fairway game, we've got our approach game, and the putting game. What areas that you've identified in those areas, sections, do you need to be really working on? I find, like, if you're a golfer, especially putting and shots from 100 meters in are probably the most neglected areas, and that's about 50% of your game, whereas most people like to work on their tee shot because I think that's the thing that's going to set them up for success. And yes, it's 25% of your game, and it does need a little bit of attention for sure. You need to be able to place the ball well, and that's what I would suggest, especially with your driver, is place it well so you can set yourself up for a good fairway shot, and then a really good shot, and be very accurate into the green so you can get the ball as close to the hole as you can to finish it off. So if you've not identified that there's areas in there that you need to be really focused on and need improvement, go and do it. The question then, and it's like with swimming and soccer, golf, and I'll talk about tennis in a moment, but do you need to have lessons and extra coaching on those areas? If the answer is yes, do it. Okay, don't waste your time. Or even if you jump on YouTube and look at ways in which you can improve things. I still work on my tennis game. I've been playing tennis for many years, most of my life, but I'm taking it again a lot more seriously. I want to play a lot more tournaments again and go and compete in national and international events for my age group. And I always promised myself that when I got older that I would do that, and I feel ready and want to be able to do that. So I'm, stripped my game right back, and I'm rebuilding it into a better, stronger game than I've ever had. And I don't care how old I am. I just want to make sure that I do that so that I can improve and do the work that I need to do. So I've identified, for example, in my serve, it's not as strong as I'd like it to be. Okay, so I've gone and stripped it right back, looked at a lot of what the pros are doing in their serves, are there areas, and film my own tennis serve. What is it that I need to be looking at to improve that? Okay, I've identified the areas. Now I'm spending a lot of time out on the court doing that. So yeah, I work and I do a lot of golf teaching, and I do a bit of tennis coaching still. So I find time. I train at the gym, and I want to improve my body and so that I'm performing better, just like you do, because there's all that other that we've got to do, the fitness aspect as well, that we've got to be looking at in our game. So it's not just the sport itself, there's the fitness aspect, there's the mental aspect, and we'll get more into that over the time. But the point here I'm making to you is, like, you need to identify areas that are not as strong as you want them to be, then go and do the work. Okay, so then if we look at the tennis area, so if your serve is not great, it's not strong, and this is the best opportunity, is you want to spend more time on getting your serve right, because it's the point in which you can, and the time in which you can control the point. So if you're controlling the point and you've got good serves, if you look at the pros when they're playing, they get a lot of free points when they've got a really strong serve, because the player down the other end struggles to return and they hold their service games. That's showing you that's an area you really need to make sure that you get really good at. So get really good at that. The return game needs to be really good. So if you're struggling to get good returns back in the court and getting the depth in the court, well, that's an area you need to be focusing on. So how are you going to do that? Well, get someone to serve to you so you can just practice hitting back to specific parts of the court, so you're working on getting the depth right. That's a really simple thing. Start looking at areas of the court that you need to make sure that you're playing the ball back to each time. Try different shots and see what's more consistent for you, that you can guarantee that you're going to get at least 80% of the returns back into play. What is it that you've got to do there? Look at that. Look at your rally game. Do you have, if that area is neglected, and look, majority of the points played, you get shots played in a point is probably going to be around about 4, right? So around about the 90% sort of area is about 4. And then there's, smaller percentages where, you're rallying for a longer period of time. And you see that on the tour as well. But look at your rally game. Is your movement good? Are you solid forehand and backhand? Have you got some playing routines, point play routines in place that you can maneuver around the court so you can get the player to play the ball back to where you want the ball to come to? So what's your rally game like? Right? So you need to look at that area. If you've rated that below 5, then that's an area, again, you need to be focused on. Also look at your approach game. Again, if you've rated it below 4 and below, okay, that's an area in which you need to work on approach shots down the line, approach shots cross court. Do you need to add drop shots in there as well? How is it you're going to set up the volley to come to you, or a nice easy smash so you can put the ball away? You've got to be looking at that approach game. How are you going to do that? And this is all geared around, okay, do you need to be working with a coach to improve these areas? Highly likely, yes. Okay, we all do at some point. Get that understanding. Really work on creating your game the way that you want to create your game so that you're setting yourself up for success. Your net game, did you rate that below a 4 or less? Most people are not great at volleys these days. I find that most people are trying to play more from the back of the court. I think, again, it's a very neglected area. So get really solid with your forehand, backhand volleys, high forehand, high backhand volleys, placement, movement, cross-court forehand volleys, cross-court backhand volleys, down the line, everything. Get really good and solid at that so that you can place the ball exactly where you need it to be going. Place cones up, get a ball machine out, practice all those things. So important. And then you've got your smashes. If you don't know how to smash well, learn how to smash really well. Have a really strong smash. It will give you lots of points to work with, especially if you're going to be moving that your opposite player, the player that you're playing against, around the court, so that you're setting opportunities up for you to get volleys and smashes so that you can just smash it away. So you need to be good at putting it away. You need to be good at playing it down the line, cross court, in the middle, getting the placement right and feeling really strong with that. So you can see how in what we need to be doing here is we need to make sure that we're getting our understanding of our sport and broken down into sections so that the awareness is there, and then we can understand what we really need to be focused on. So I hope that makes sense to you. I hope you've got a lot of value out of what I shared with you today. So there's a bit of work that you need to be doing on that, but do it. Do the work. Understand and break your game down into sections that you can understand really well. I've thrown some things out there, what I see from other sports, and also my expertise in tennis and golf. But look at your sport. How can you break it down into sections? And then what is it out of each section? How can you improve it and get it to the area that it needs to be? Okay, so I want you to do that. Now, what I'd also love you to do is leave a comment down below wherever you hear this episode. I'd love it if you could share with me what you like best about what you heard. I'd really appreciate that. And then what I want you to do is go out there and do the work, get this done, have this awareness, and I want you to then dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams, do the work, have lots of fun doing it, and I'm always here for you, that you can always bounce ideas off as well. So have an awesome day. Love to hear from you. Take care and talk soon. Before you go, do you want to build confidence, belief, strength, and courage in you to go after your big dreams in your life and in your sport? If you do, go to www.tiffany-mika.com and get a copy of my book, Focus, How to Reach Your Potential in Sport, Business and Life. I look forward to seeing you there. Dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams.